Okay, let's talk about honey. It's sweet, it's golden, and it comes from bees. Pretty simple, right? But what if I told you we could get that exact same taste, that same sweetness, but completely without the bees? Today, we're diving into a food innovation that's doing just that. And honestly, it might just change how you think about your food. So let's just get right to it with a question that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. Can you actually make real honey without bees? I mean, for a long time, the answer was a very simple nope, no way. But that's all starting to change. So, who's behind this? A Californian food tech company called Melly Bio. They've created the world's first real honey made without bees. And listen to this quote from someone who actually tasted it. It's indistinguishable from the real deal. And just to be clear, this isn't some honey substitute like agave. No, this stuff is molecularly identical to the honey bees make. It's the real thing. But you have to ask, why, right? Why go to all this trouble to create honey without the very creatures that are famous for making it? Well, it turns out this isn't just some cool science experiment. It's actually a response to a pretty serious global problem. The scale of our dependence on these tiny little workers is just staggering. 1/3 of the world's crops rely on bees and other pollinators. Seriously, think about that for a second. From the fruits and veggies you buy every week to nuts and seeds, they are an absolutely critical link in our entire global food system. And we could actually put a number on that. The work pollinators do for free contributes up to $577 billion to global food production every single year. But with bee populations declining, because of habitat loss, pesticides, climate change, our food security is genuinely at risk. So innovations like bee-free honey are really about trying to take some of that pressure off these essential creatures. But here's the thing, protecting our food supply, that's only part of the story. The motivation to reduce our reliance on bees actually comes from a much bigger, much deeper idea, a powerful ethical philosophy that's been growing for decades. So let's unpack what that is. So what is that bigger idea? Well, it's veganism. At its core, it's an ethical framework that tries to minimize harm to all living beings. And believe it or not, it has a really rich, established history. So what does that actually mean? Well, according to the vegan sourcebook, it's about living on plant products and excluding all animal-derived foods and commodities. And that last part is key. It means it isn't just a diet, right? It's a principled stance that goes way beyond food to things like avoiding leather, wool, and even silk. And like I said, this isn't some new fad. The movement has deep roots. The word vegan itself was actually coined by a guy named Donald Watson all the way back in World War II. Then the American Vegan Society was founded in 1960, and by 75, the whole idea was starting to get some serious international attention. Now, to really get what this ethic is all about, we have to look past the obvious stuff. It's not just about what happens in a slaughterhouse. So let's take a look at an industry that a lot of people think is pretty harmless, the dairy industry. You've all seen the marketing, right? These images of happy, contented cows hanging out in beautiful green pastures. But the reality of modern industrial farming, well, it can be a very different picture. Dairy cows have been bred over time to produce way more milk than is natural, which puts this incredible stress on their bodies and often leads to painful infections and other health issues. This quote really gets to the heart of it. See, to keep a cow producing milk, she has to give birth to a calf about once a year. But that calf is almost always taken away from her within just a few hours. Dr. Michael Clapper describes witnessing this firsthand, the profound grief of both the mother and her baby, and this separation is standard practice in the industry. And this, of course, begs a really important question. Female calves might end up replacing their mothers in the dairy herd, but what about all the male calves born every year? The ones that are of no use to a dairy farmer because they can't produce milk? And the answer reveals this really direct, and for a lot of people, totally hidden connection. Because male calves can't produce milk, they're seen as a surplus byproduct. So to make a profit from them, the dairy industry created the veal market. For many people, this discovery is shocking, that a simple glass of milk is so closely tied to the meat industry in a way they never imagined. Okay, so let's tie this all back together. On one hand, you have this long-standing ethical principle, and on the other, you have this cutting-edge 21st century technology. So what happens when those two things finally combine? This is what it looks like in action. You have the foundational ethic, the why, represented by the vegan sourcebook, which has been around for decades. And now you have the future it's inspiring, the how, a future where we can enjoy products like honey without having to rely on animals. Melibio's bee-free honey is basically a modern technological expression of this really core idea. And listen, Melibio is just the tip of the iceberg here. This is part of a much bigger trend happening in food tech right now. Scientists and innovators are creating everything from beanless coffee to cacao-free chocolate, all of it aimed at separating the foods we love from supply chains that are unsustainable or, for many, ethically complicated. So you see, bee-free honey might seem like a pretty specific, maybe even small innovation, but it really represents a massive shift. It's what happens when a long-held ethical framework finally meets cutting-edge science. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other possibilities are out there? What does the future of our food really look like when our technology finally catches up with our ethics?